Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to A Real Point of View. I am Greg Morgan, your host, and I am the film critic. I am the real movie guy, and here on the internet. And joining me are my fellow partners in crime in film critics on the internet. We have Ms. Karen D, the movie maven herself, and Mr. Stephen C. He is the man who doesn't pick a bad movie. So,
allegedly.
I got your allegedly. Right here.
Right there. Right there. Yeah, it's been interesting looking at the different movies and the assignments that we have all the time with trying to help bring really good movies for you guys to see after we've had a chance to see them ourselves and review them, and hopefully you're listening to what we're saying about them and taking advantage of our ability to go out there and kind of sift through all the murky murk and the quirky quirk in order to bring a better sense and a better essence of films to you for your film enjoyment. So today we are going to talk about something kind of cool anyway. It seemed cool to me anyway. And that's...
Can I just interrupt you for a second, Greg? I would like the tagline for this, for our broadcast, to be this: you have failed the Academy. Okay, continue.
Well, actually, what I was going to say was what I put in the system here for our little brief bit of advertisement was kind of a dark cavern. It seems like just dark blackness, and then the Oscar itself sitting there, and it says where the Academy Awards failed. So let me bring that up so you guys can see this, and that way I'm not just saying it. One moment, let me bring this picture up because it's kind of cool. All right.
I like you have failed the Academy. Like you have failed the city, you have failed the Academy.
That's right. That's right. And that was my thought when I saw this, when I put this together. So take a look. Let me see here. There we go. How's that?
I like it. Although I think actually Oscar should be sitting down and just like with his head in his hands going, oh my God, how could you do this to me? Something like that.
Kind of like the Oscar the Thinker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could actually do well. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about how the Oscars have, whatever that voting essence is that's been put together to decide who actually gets these Oscars. Well, we're not so sure that they made the right decisions. And I think there's a lot of people out there that think, you know, a movie that you really think is going to be really, really good, and you watch it and you're like, oh my God, this is a great film. And you're like, oh, great. You hear the nominations come out for the films, and you say, hey, your film has been nominated, so it's got a good chance of winning. And you hear all the buzz and all the things that are going on. And then you get to the Oscars, and there's just some movie that you really hardly ever heard of. And then next thing you know, it's like, and the Academy Award goes to Beavis and Butthead. No, I'm kidding about the Beavis and Butthead part, but it might as well be Beavis and Butthead. And you're like, what? Cinderella should have won, not Beavis and Butthead, but yet Beavis and Butthead won. Now, why is that? What's wrong with the Academy that they can't see that this other film was more stellar than the one that they picked? So we wanted to look at some of those films that we felt it just should not have won the Oscar. And we want to discuss kind of like why and what would they do? What was going on in their mind when they're voting? Because, you know, it's the Academy that votes, which means it's those actors and actresses and directors and all that good stuff. They're voting for this stuff, and you're wondering, well, how did that make it? Now, we also know that, at least we think sometimes, say an actor or a movie gets snubbed the year before, and the following year that actor somehow sneakily gets an award for a movie that was less, and his or her acting was less, but yet somehow they got the award because they got snubbed the year before. Or the director's film, you know, got snubbed the year before, now a lesser film gets the nod. Well, that might be some of the reasons why. But, you know, we want to look at some of the films that won and then look at the films that didn't and say, hey, we felt this should have won. So do you have any history, Karen, of anything that you want to, you know, tell us about with regard to this subject matter before we actually really get into the crux of the films that we've actually picked that we felt should have won?
I can't say that I do. I didn't realize I was supposed to do that.
Well, last few episodes, and I know it's really more of the times we were talking about, we've had a few things to give us ahead of time, but that's okay. We're not, there's no pressure. So what we can do though is talk about the films that we felt, or that actually won, and that we felt should have won. And if you have any good reasons why, let us know. Can I just
throw one thing in here? I mean, not this, there's not a lot of, I mean, there is a lot of history, I'm sure. But I was just checking earlier today to see if Kirk Douglas had ever won an Academy Award for a film that he's done, and I don't believe he has.
Wow.
He got an honorary Oscar maybe 20 or 30 years ago. And he's over 100 years old now. And I don't think he's ever won an Academy Award for a specific role.
And yet he's one of my favorite actors, you know?
I mean, he really is a brilliant actor too, so.
He is.
I just...
I think I grew up on and always had in mind one of the more epic films, which was Spartacus.
Yep, he didn't win for that.
And that was such a stellar movie, and he did such a good job in it.
And he didn't win for Lust for Life, where he played Vincent Van Gogh.
Which was really good. It made me sad for Vincent Van Gogh. I had that feeling of following him through his life like that, and how sad I felt throughout the whole movie for this guy who truly gave seemingly just total effort to try to get, you know, his paintings seen, and his paintings, you know, the what is it? Well, I can't remember the actual term, but lack of a better way of saying it, it's due, we'll say. And you know, whether it's Vincent Van Gogh or not, he made me think that that's how Vincent Van Gogh's life was, and that made me sad. So the acting was such that I felt the pain, you know, and that's a good assessment of an actor and or the role that he was given. And yeah, Kirk Douglas is, wow, that's crazy. Well, I was looking at films that had won the Academy Award at certain times, and the movies that won and the ones that I thought should have won. And so do you want me to kick this off, guys? Or any of you want to?
Why don't you kick it off, Greg?
All right. I want to call my little segment here, Robert De Niro versus the Oscars. Okay. Now, Robert De Niro, to me, is the consummate great actor. I've seen him in many different roles. He's been very convincing to me in pretty much all of them. I even saw him do a role where he was a stand-up comedian, and I really liked the movie. So I realize that is in itself its own bias, that I'm a big Robert De Niro fan, but I am. But I think it's justified by the fact that he's been in such wonderful films and he's done such a great job in them. Whether he was the star or the supporting actor, he's been a great actor. And these films that he was in is just amazing, and yet they get snubbed. Okay, so one of the movies I thought was interesting was a movie where you know, Robert De Niro plays gangsters really well. He just does. Kind of like the James Cagney and Humphrey Bogart of this era.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, even with that being the case, even with such stellar abilities in these films, why these films themselves don't get the weight of the great Oscar nod is beyond me. So one of the films I want to talk about first, or I should say the set of films, is the one that won the Oscar is Dancing with Wolves with Kevin Costner. Now, granted, that was a really good movie. I actually liked that movie a lot. And I thought it, you know, the period piece was pretty decent, you know. Basically, we're talking about post Civil War, and here's this military guy. He goes onto the prairie, into the western, further into the west to help fortify this fort that doesn't exist anymore. And so he's trying to, you know, still stand his post, and it's basically about his encounter with Native Americans and, you know, the life there and all that. And it's really good movie. But I thought the movie that Robert De Niro was in was better. And Ray Liotta showed me his acting chops in this film. I love Goodfellas. Robert De Niro was great in this movie as a supporting actor, him and Joe Pesci. And it gives us a true account of the mafia life through the eyes of a young man as he grows up into that life and becomes at his attempt to become a made man, and Ray Liotta, and the people who helped support him in that, which was of course Robert De Niro's character and Joe Pesci's character. And I thought Goodfellas was an excellent film, and it did not get the nod for the Oscar. I just didn't. I honestly thought they were going to win. I honestly thought they were going to win the Academy Award. And with such a stellar cast, stellar directing, I mean, it was a really good movie. And of course, I love biopics, and this was based off of, you know, true accounts of a real person. And yet, Dances with Wolves trampled all over him with all the buffalo. Little wolf on the end. Yeah, but the raging horde trampled all over Robert De Niro and Ray Liotta and Joe Pesci and Goodfellas. And I thought Goodfellas was a better movie. Did you guys get the chance to see either film, and what do you think?
I really liked Dances with Wolves. I really thought it was just a really interesting take on a story. I thought it was very thoughtful. I know it's kind of popular not to like Kevin Costner. Sometimes he does kind of phone it in as an actor, but I thought he really cared about this project, and he wasn't phoning it in here. And so I really liked that movie. And I mean, there was more of an emotional connection for me to Dances with Wolves than there will ever be with Goodfellas. That being said, I thought Goodfellas was an excellent film too. It's just, it really, like you said, it's a really good gangster movie. And Robert De Niro was excellent in it. So was Ray Liotta. I mean, both of them were just amazing in it. And, I mean, I think what you bring up is one of the issues with the Academy. They're swayed by public pressure or by what seems cool or what seems to like have like the zeitgeist, for lack of a better word, that sort of is grabbing the imagination of people. What's trending? They get swept up by what's trending, and they are also too influenced by campaigns. That's why the movie studios go through such great efforts to do campaigns for, they start beating the drum when the movie's released. They start beating the Oscar drum, especially if they know that it's close to the time when nominations are going to be determine. And they go to great lengths, holding receptions and viewing parties and dinners and sending gifts. And I mean, I would like to think if I was a member of the Academy, I wouldn't be swayed by that. I would think, if that's what you're doing, then you've automatically lost to my book. But I'm human and they're human. And so I think at some point you probably just, you just let yourself get swept away. You can let yourself get carried away in the tide. By the tide. And there was a tide with Dances with Wolves. It was like one of those politically correct movies. It didn't offend anybody, yet it told a story that needed to be told. And, so there was that sort of just that emotional connection that Goodfellas wasn't going to grab. That poignancy wasn't there for Goodfellas, although on paper it might have been a better movie and the acting was just as good, and maybe people could argue that the acting was better in Goodfellas. I don't know. I like both movies.
Yeah, and I like Martin Scorsese. I think I've always thought he was a really good director and producer. So for them to get snubbed, it just kind of shocked me, I guess. And it's ironic. I looked in, the Independent Movie Database, and it was funny. So I wanted to see, because that's another thing I did. I wanted to see what kind of, just using that as a base here, what they thought about the film as far as rating. So Dances with Wolves got an 8.0, which for IMDb is really huge. That's telling you that they thought it was, and their cohorts thought it was a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what Goodfellas got from them?
90?
Almost. It was 8.7.
Wow.
So even they thought it was a better movie, overall. So not saying that that's the cure-all, end-all, but just saying, using that as my base of information. So again, thinking that was great. So what about you, Steve? You a Goodfellas guy, or you a native Dancing with Wolves kind of post-Civil War guy?
I'm a fan of Kevin Costner. I love a lot of the movies he's done, even movies that don't get a real acclaim for Kevin Costner, or they feel like he's phoning it in, or they feel like he's not doing a good job. I enjoy those movies because of the kind of actor he is, and it always seems like he's still putting a good foot forward, even though he might not be as invested in the movie. Dances with Wolves is a great movie. It's a great period movie. Mm-hmm. But to me, Goodfellas resonates with me a whole lot more than Dances with Wolves. And the reason it does is Goodfellas is one of the few movies that you get where you're being read a story, except it's on the screen. With the narration by Ray Liotta, reading you a book, and then they're changing their voices to the characters to kind of bring them to life as they're reading a book to a little kid. And that style really resonated with me the first time I saw the movie. When I see it on USA or TNT, or when it comes over, or when I go find it on a DVD, it does a good job of the storytelling aspect of the movie. You feel every emotion, you feel every growth of all of these characters put together. De Niro did an amazing job playing who he had to play, and changing with the movie and the necessary changes his character had to have through the movie. And I feel like Dances with Wolves is a great movie. I feel like Goodfellas is a complete movie.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Interesting.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
You can sit people in front of Dances with Wolves, and some are going to enjoy it and some are not. I feel like you sit people in front of Goodfellas, you're going to get a 90%, just like it got a 9 out of 10, of people that are going to walk away from that movie going, I would love to watch that movie again.
Yeah, it was entertaining. It was multifaceted to me.
And it had a trueness to that side of, or that part of society that you don't normally see.
Right, right.
Right.
And that was like an introduction into that. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people knew and had heard stories of what was going on, but Goodfellas really made it apparent for everybody that it was believable that this happened, because this is all, I mean, it was based on fact.
Right. I actually researched the movie externally, away from the actual movie, looking up the different characters. And there are some things in the movie that, in the movie line, as you follow the essence of the film, that are a little different than the real life characters. But they pretty much stayed true to form for the majority. And so that was kind of cool. And when I saw the differences, they weren't big enough to really matter so much, unless you truly want the actual facts of these real people. But I think that the dramatization that they did in the film still stayed pretty true to what the real life story was. So that in itself was also another factor that I thought was really good about the film. So before I go into my other Robert De Niro versus the Oscars, what about you guys? Any of you guys want to kind of throw one of your pairings out there?
Well, I can. 1954.
That's a good year for film.
Well, it was a good year for film.
I wasn't even kidding. I was being very truthful.
Yeah, it was a good year for film. This is where, unfortunately, I feel like the Academy just got it wrong. And I'm not surprised that they got it wrong, in my opinion. I'm not surprised that they went in the direction that they went. But they had a chance to really award just real creativity, a real step away from safety to reward that, and they did not. They went with the tried and true. So 1954, I believe it was the 1955 Academy Awards, Grace Kelly won Best Actress for The Country Girl. But who the Academy should have gone to is Dorothy Dandridge for Carmen Jones. Otto Preminger directed an absolute tour de force of Bizet's opera Carmen. And this time the story, instead of being set in Bizet's, where Bizet had his opera set, this time the movie was set in an airplane factory towards the end of World War II. The movie stars Dorothy Dandridge as Carmen Jones. Harry Belafonte plays this pilot, or pilot in training, who's on his way to Pensacola to learn to fly jets to go get those Nazis. And Diane Carroll's in this movie. Pearl Bailey's in this movie. Roy Glenn is in this movie. Just, absolute amazing cast. And Otto and here Dorothy Dandridge went out of her way to campaign to get this role. Up until this time, she had this image as a sort of a very a good girl, like someone who played the wholesome sort of maybe romantic lead, but the good girl who never did anything wrong and who would never behave inappropriately or be caught with some strange man doing something she wasn't supposed to do. Always the picture of courtesy and good breeding and all this other stuff. And those are the kinds of roles that she played, not women with a lot of personality, frankly. Carmen was all personality. I mean, she just had it in spades, and she didn't care what people thought. And she she went after what she wanted, and so she was this really incredibly strong woman who dominated the screen. And watch Carmen Jones, and the minute that Dorothy Dandridge steps onto the screen, you cannot take your eyes off her. You wonder when she's not there what she's doing. And when she's there, you can't wait to see what she's going to do next. So she just did an incredible job. And like I said, she really campaigned. She campaigned with Otto Preminger, directly appealed to him to consider her for this role. She was not the first choice. And I can't remember who was the first choice, but it definitely wasn't her. But she persuaded him that she was the right person, and she was the right person. She was made for that role. And after that, I think after that role, she still had trouble getting decent film roles because she was an African-American woman in an industry that was trying to ignore African-American women, frankly. But she was at least seen as she got a somewhat broader array of roles to choose from, somewhat. But I mean, it didn't help. I mean, the story ended tragically. She died I think in the 1960s. So no, the industry did not treat her kindly at all. But this poor, at 1955 Academy Award, she was nominated, and it would have just been something if she had won. I think also Carmen Jones should have been, it could have easily won Best Picture. What the Academy did that year was they awarded Grace Kelly the Oscar for The Country Wife, and they awarded The Country Wife Best Picture of the Year. And I mean, I've seen The Country Wife, and Grace Kelly was good, but part of me kind of feels like she got an award for not looking pretty. Because in this particular movie, she was drab, she was just sort of mousy, and and up until that point, pretty much all the roles she played, she was always glamorous. In every Hitchcock role, she was glamorous, and in other roles, I mean, she mostly did a lot of Hitchcock. She only had 30 screen roles during her career before she went off to marry Prince Rainier of Monaco. She didn't have a long film career. And most of the time she was the object of beauty, or she was the romantic lead, and she was always gorgeous. In this movie, she wasn't. She was almost unrecognizable compared to how she looked in all of her other previous roles. Mm-hmm. So, and I think she was convincing as the wife of Bing Crosby, who basically was just ignored. I mean, he loved her, but she was bored, and she was unfulfilled and dull, and she just looked terrible, and like she couldn't put on makeup, and so it's like, okay, I think that's what she got the award for, frankly.
Yeah, being something that's not typical that we would see Grace Kelly. I mean, yeah, she was very elegant.
It's not that, yes, it's not that she did a bad job acting. She didn't. She was very good in this movie, and the movie itself was good. It's just that I felt like the Academy bent over backwards to award somebody for doing a good job, and they let languish on the side of the road a movie where somebody didn't just do a good job, but did an amazing job, and just did something that literally leapt off the screen in a way that had never been seen before. I mean, people in the arts are always talking about creativity or taking risk, or this movie, Carmen Jones did that in spades, and the response was, we're going to go with The Country Wife. Yeah. It's a nice, safe story that everybody can get behind.
Yeah, I've seen Carmen Jones twice, and each time I found different nuances that I liked even more. But this this character, Carmen Jones, was she was the woman you love to hate in that film, and because she did such a good job, Dorothy Dandridge did such a good job in that film. The essence of Carmen Jones was true to force. You felt it, you saw it, you saw other people experience it, and not to give away so much of the film, but she was rough, she was tough. And as you alluded to before, that wasn't even in Dorothy Dandridge's case, that wasn't the type of role that she played. Here's a woman who was a dancer slash singer, great tap dancer, by the way. I don't know if anybody knows that. And and yet she's going from those kind of roles where she was the nice girl or the great friend, and coming into this situation where she's so not what her stereotypical roles were prior. She was so to the left of this one. It was just crazy. And yet at the same time, she was still, even in this crazy, fiery woman, was elegance, beauty. And that's why it just did so well. And she did so well in that role. It was made for her. Yep.
And there was vulnerable. Oh, I can never say this.
Vulnerability.
Vulnerable. She was vulnerable too. Yeah, there was vulnerability that she exemplified. So even though Carmen Jones wasn't a nice person, and she cut you and your baby too in a New York second, she also you rooted for her because she actually knew what she wanted and she went out and got it. And what did she want that was so terrible? You know, she was going to be a lot more interesting than poor Diane Carroll's little character. You know, well, I just want to be by Joe. That was Diane Carroll's little mantra. And Dorothy Dandridge is like, please, he needs a woman. He didn't need you. You're a little girl. And, you know, she enjoyed being a woman, and she had no interest in little girls or little girl problems like the kind that Diane Carroll had. And also she didn't want to live a little life. And that was the thing. It was like Harry Belafonte was also, you know, on one hand, he's going to like go off and fly jets for the German, you know, not for the German, but go off and fly jets against the Nazis. But at the same time, he wants to marry this safe little girl and not make any waves. And, you know, and she's like, that's crazy. You know, you're a bold person or you wouldn't be doing this. So act like a bold person. Of course, that all went crazy 12 Ways from Sunday, but you know, but yeah, I'm not surprised that the Academy went the direction. I'm sure there was a lot of campaigning, and Bing Crosby had a great deal of power in Hollywood, a great deal of power. He was a mega producer. I mean, he acted, that was kind of his hobby. His real job was like the power behind the throne. That was his real job in the industry. He had a major production company, Bing Crosby Productions, put a lot of things on TV, backed a lot of movies. He made stars, he broke stars. So yeah, I'm not surprised that a movie that he was in actually won. But it really would have been nice if Otto Preminger's little movie could have won.
Yeah, good point, good point. Any comments, Steve, and or do you have your giving?
I don't have any comments. I feel like y'all pretty much covered every single thing you could possibly say about that. Which is good. Which is good. I'm not saying anything bad. But I do have mine. I want to go to 2002 for the Academy Award for Best Picture.
Say again?
Chicago. I really feel like Chicago was a good movie. It was the first musical to actually win Best Picture since, I believe, Oliver. Yeah, in 1968. So.
And you're bringing up another one.
Yeah. But it was the first one to win since Oliver. So it's not like real musicals had gotten great attention over the years. But it's just the movies that this was stacked up against. Gangs of New York, which is an amazing movie. Daniel Day-Lewis, Leonardo DiCaprio, Cameron Diaz was in it. Along with just a really good side cast of characters. Was the better of the trilogy of movies, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. I feel out of the three movies, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, Return of the King, that The Lord of the Rings was better, more action-packed, more plot-driven. It had a standard of like really bringing that book to life instead of, it did a good job of staying true to the source material. The Pianist, which was an amazing movie that was actually what's the word I'm looking for? It was actually a co-production between France, the United Kingdom, Germany, and Poland. It's a biographical drama about a pianist in World War II, a Jewish.
Right.
Through when Germany bombed Warsaw, and him and his family being moved into the ghettos of Warsaw, being transferred to extermination camps, and really a true story of survival during World War II for a man who just loved playing piano and really giving for his art, and trying to help. The fifth movie that was up that year is called The Hours. Meryl Streep, Julianne Moore, Nicole Kidman, John C. Reilly, Jeff Daniels, Ed Harris. A really good cast that all revolves around the plot revolves around a book written by Virginia Woolf, which is actually played, I believe, by Nicole Kidman.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't that great a movie, in my opinion, but even with the stellar cast.
Yeah, and it affected their lives through the years. Virginia Woolf being the writer, and then Julianne Moore, I believe, is a housewife a pregnant housewife in the 50s, and who's in an unhappy marriage, and Meryl Streep, which is played by Ed Harris, who is a friend and poet, who has an age-stricken disease. And it's just, it's a really good movie. It's an amazing cast and they do a good job bouncing back and forth between the times. But I feel that Chicago, even though it got a lot of praise and it got a lot of viewers, other movies, I especially don't believe it was as good as The Pianist and Gangs of New York. I feel like it was just there to kind of be an uplifting kind of not necessarily an uplifting, a female story for the movies. Catherine Zeta-Jones and Renee Zellweger actually played two people who murdered Jones, murdering her former dance partner, and then it's a musical setting up through the life that mostly for Renee Zellweger that is going on, and it does a good job with the scenes. It does a good job of making all the dance numbers and everything feel like they're on stage and being truly presented to you as a show. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there's a lot of rinse and repeat through the process, and they're kind of telling too much of the same part of the story over and over. And I just don't feel like it was as good as the others. Mm. If I had to pick, I would probably say either The Pianist or Gangs of New York, just for the movies that I would have thought should have won the Best Picture.
Yeah, I agree. Probably more so for me, The Pianist, than The Streets of New York. Although I like The Streets of New York, I thought it was a pretty decent film. Little bit here and there is a little over the top, but other than that, a really good film. And Chicago was good. It just
I really liked Chicago.
I did too. It was good, but
It's also based on a true story
That was
too.
Yeah.
I didn't see it till I was in college. It came out my sophomore year of high school, but I didn't see it till later on. And I really enjoyed the movie. It's just when you compare it to the other movies, I just feel like there's not really a contest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's bounce and keep bouncing on here. I'm going to go back to my venting. Robert De Niro versus the Oscars. Okay, so
What else did they do to Bobby De Niro, Greg?
Look, he just didn't deserve it, and neither did Marty, because this is another Marty movie, Marty Scorsese. Okay, so this is the 1990. These movies came out in 1976, excuse me.
Why is the bell ringing?
The bell is tolling for the movie that I'm going to mention because it got snubbed when I think it was a better movie. And don't get me wrong, I am a fan of both movies. One, because it is uplifting, and the other because it's not uplifting. The one, you're going to run like this across Philadelphia and you're going to be happy. And the other one is going to drive and hit that guy for being so happy. So what movies am I talking about? Rocky won for Best Picture in 1976, beating out Robert and Marty in a movie that I thought really made me think like, yeah, wow, oh my God, this is great. This is crazy. Oh my God. And the movie that actually introduces us to Jodie Foster. What movie am I talking about? Taxi Driver.
You talking to me?
You must be talking to me. I'm the only one here. Instead of, hey, Adrian! Adrian!
Yo, Adrian!
Adrian! Hey, my name's Rocky, and I'm a boxer.
Rocky Balboa.
Yeah. But I think I was more like, yeah, I'm a taxi driver in New York. And things just ain't what they supposed to be. Well, anyway, here's another situation where Robert De Niro's film Taxi Driver, which I thought was a great film. It had all this craziness going on. The film kept moving and moving and moving. And Rocky was a good film too. I mean, you're talking about a guy who had seemingly nothing. He's an average boxer at best. And, he's coming up, he's trying to get better, and he's trying to make that decision, make that move. And he's getting all the support and, from the community and all this stuff. That's great. That's wonderful. Loved Rocky. Good film. But Taxi Driver, that puts you on the edge. That movie, you're talking about Robert De Niro's character literally right in front of you, changing and ever changing and evolving. And it ain't a pretty picture of evolution either. This was a great film. I thought Marty was going to get it for this one too.
Well, what was so great about Taxi Driver?
The edge. How do I put this? I loved Robert De Niro's character. It showed, as you said, Karen, not just the edge and about a guy seemingly losing his mind, but his vulnerability in this situation, how he's trying to deal with this. And the only people around him in his life just wasn't positive role models. So here's a guy who his whole self-image, his whole self-motivation has kilter, kind of like how I'm leaning, like right here, on the edge of humanity. I just liked that portrayal. I thought it was excellent, but yet the Academy didn't. Did you like either film, Karen?
Well, you're probably going to blow a gasket, but I haven't seen Taxi Driver.
What? Okay. That wasn't quite a gasket.
It was close.
It might have been another part of the car. Okay, well, then I implore you and you people out there listening and watching to give Taxi Driver a chance. I think you'll enjoy the film. And again, this is introducing us to Jodie Foster, and she plays a young prostitute in this film. And, you know, she actually does a decent job, but I think Robert De Niro just, he shows different persona evolution in this film, and it's basically this guy literally in front of you just going crazy, mentally ill, mentally crazy, and losing it. And I think it's worth watching. And I thought it was just a better movie than Rocky. Rocky was a good movie, don't get me wrong, but I just thought Taxi Driver was better. I thought it deserved the win instead of Rocky. That's just my opinion. Have you had a chance to see either film, Steve?
I have. I kind of agree with you.
Okay, kind of better than disagree. I'm sorry, what were you saying, Steve?
I said I agree with you. Kind of.
Okay, I'll take it. Little thumbs up.
I like Rocky. Rocky did a good job of making boxing movies cool again.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of boxing movies from the 50s, 60s that got a lot of initial hype and things like that. But it was still boxing, and it wasn't just shown to everybody. But you take Rocky, and Rocky's a story that you can show to kids about overcoming adversity, overcoming trials, growing as a human being, and not giving up. And you never know when that one opportunity is going to come.
Mm-hmm.
And a Taxi Driver, I feel watching the evolution movie from the very first scene to the very last scene is an incredible acting job by him to, like you said, literally watch a person lose their minds for nearly an hour.
Okay.
Well, longer than an hour. It is just crazy, and to be able to put it into a movie form and make it a very appealing process and situation, and something that you want to pay attention to, because the American people love a train wreck, and that is what this movie does. Is it shows you a train wreck from the train moving to the train hitting whatever it hits, to every single thing that happens step by step after that. And it is the more it's men for Best Picture, and that is also a really good movie that I feel would probably merit more than of a nomination than Rocky. So just for Best Picture.
I remember going to the movies to see Rocky, and when I remember saying to my friends that I went with at the time, this movie's going to win the Oscar for Best Picture.
Oh, look at you. Wrong.
No, it did win.
Guess none of your friends took a taxi with a crazy guy.
No, it just had
pre-adolescent prostitute.
It had Academy Award winner written all over it, especially with the backstory of how Sylvester Stallone got the movie made. And Hollywood loves that kind of story.
Life in order to make this film.
Right. I mean, it was a studio film, but it was almost like an indie film, really. and he wrote the script, and he and his brother wrote the script, and he's dyslexic, and he taught himself to, become proficient in reading, even though he had dyslexia. And, Hollywood just loves the story like that. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if you ever watch, there's a 30 for 30 called The Real Rocky. And I can't remember the name of the boxer that it's based on, but the movies are all pretty close to what actually happened in this boxer's life. And this boxer and Sylvester Stallone had actually met on multiple occasions and had
Rocky
talked and
Marciano.
everything.
I was going to say, I bet it was Rocky Marciano.
No. It is not Rocky Marciano. It's another boxer.
Oh.
Okay.
The 50s.
Okay.
No, it's another boxer that wasn't really a well-known boxer, but he did get his one shot at a world title. And but there's a 30 for 30 called The Real Rocky. If you check it out, like, it'll kind of, it's his side of it, but it's a non-biased director, and they do a really good job of going through that. This guy actually took Stallone to court for a long period of time for believing that Stallone had literally ripped off his life to make millions doing these movies.
Wow.
So just something to check out.
Interesting.
But I feel like Taxi Cab Driver was the better movie. But what do I know?
We're critics. We know everything. No, I'm kidding. So, Steve, let's get another movie from you.
Evidently,
Why are we going in
Karen
order?
D knew more than me.
I was
just trying to switch it up a little bit.
Oh.
I apologize, Karen. Go for it.
Well, my next movie, I'd like to go back in time 34 years to 1983, to the 1983 Academy Awards. And this sticks in my craw to this day. And it's stuck in my craw in 1983 when it happened. When I watched the 1983 Academy Awards, I couldn't believe that this person did not win for Best Actor. And the person I'm talking about is Paul Newman, and the movie is The Verdict.
Good movie. Love that movie.
Excellent movie. And this movie was nominated for numerous awards. Unfortunately, because they say timing is everything, this movie ran up against the juggernaut of a little film that we'll be calling Gandhi. Yeah, Gandhi knocked this film up one side and down the other and basically stomped all over it because Gandhi swept the Academy Awards. It was Gandhi, 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 Gandhi. Ben Kingsley won Best Actor, Gandhi won Best Picture, Richard Attenborough won Best Director. I mean, it was just Gandhi, Gandhi, Gandhi.
It was a good movie.
It was an excellent movie, and maybe, I don't know. I mean, Paul Newman was so, I've seen Gandhi, and it's one of those epic sweeping tales, and it's well told, and Ben Kingsley, I had a little trouble with the casting of Ben Kingsley, although he is partially Indian. So, and Ben Kingsley was really good in the movie. But The Verdict, The Verdict. Paul Newman was so good in The Verdict. And it was so good, it just, I don't know. I was listening to Anthony Hopkins on Turner Classic Movies, and he was talking about working with Katharine Hepburn on The Lion in Winter. Mm-hmm. And no, was it The Lion in Winter? Or was it? Oh God, no, it wasn't. It wasn't Katharine Hepburn on The Lion in Winter. Anyway, Spencer Tracy had given advice to an actor, and I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Burt Reynolds. And he said, when the cameras are rolling, you're not acting. You just be. Don't act, just be. Mm-hmm. That was the advice he gave to him. And to me, Paul Newman really personified this in The Verdict. because he just put on this broken down lawyer who had just been trampled by life, but through his own devices. It was his own freaking fault that he got so trampled.
Right.
And so he was beaten. He was broken down. He was down and out. He drank for breakfast. He drank for lunch. He drank for dinner. He hit the pinball machines, waiting. And he was an ambulance chaser. And he was like everybody's worst nightmare as far as attorneys are concerned. And he took that and put it on like an old coat and just inhabited it. He just became this man. And it wasn't through a lot of like makeup or histrionics or, let me gain 80 pounds so I look more beaten, or let me starve myself so I look away. None of that crap. He looked the same way, except that he looked really different. I mean, if you looked at Paul Newman and then you looked at this poor sap, it's like, are they the same person? Because the way he walked, he had like just a little bit of a stoop when he walked because he had been beaten. And the way that he would just sort of glance off to the side, the way in which he didn't really look people in the eye, all of these things, there were just these nuances that were brilliant. And that's what he brought to this role. And I just loved him in this role. What was even more insulting to me than him not winning, because you're up against Gandhi. I mean, what are you going to do? It's just, it's the luck of the draw, and you got snake eyes, buddy, from that standpoint. But I could have even handled that if the Academy hadn't come back in a completely misguided, left-handed, backslided, almost insult of a gesture in 1987 when they decided to award Paul Newman the Academy Award for a completely forgettable film called The Color of Money. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I
don't think
everything you just said, except forgettable film.
That movie was forgettable. I saw the movie. I went to the movie to see it. And I couldn't tell you the first thing, except I do remember there was a pool table at some point.
I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to let you continue, but I'm just going to say you're wrong. In that instance, you're wrong.
Paul Newman no more deserved the Academy Award for The Color of Money than
No. I'm not arguing that.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a forgettable film. I'm arguing that it's a forgettable film.
It's a forgettable film.
Not for Steve.
You're right.
Because as soon as you said that, I thought, uh-oh. Because Steve liked that movie a lot. And I knew he did.
It's a forgettable film.
You're a forgettable film.
Are we really going out of our way to be that mature?
I'm not going to fight everything. I'm not going to fight anything you've said except that. That is the only thing I will fight you on.
Whatevs.
Oh.
I couldn't believe that they made this much. I can't believe.
Very disheveled in that movie. And it was like watching the phoenix arise from the ashes into this wonderful essence of a lawyer attempt by him in that movie.
I can't believe they went through all of this trouble to make Color of Money. I mean, it's a movie about table tennis, for crying out loud. Who cares at the end of the day?
Well, you have to understand.
Table tennis?
Color of Money is not the first
table tennis?
Color of Money is the second movie.
She just literally did that on purpose.
Color of Money was really the second movie, ladies and gentlemen. It was Minnesota. What was the movie with Cool Hand Luke? Was it? No. What was the original movie with?
It's a movie with Jackie Gleason, and
it's the movie. It's The Hustler.
The Hustler. Right. Thank you. This is the same character. This is the same character years later.
Right.
Yes, and the original was Jackie Gleason playing Minnesota Fats.
And that was an excellent movie.
It was. with Paul Newman.
later.
Yep.
That was a great movie.
The Hustler was an excellent movie. The Color of Money, oh my God. Please. That was a shell of a movie. Forgettable. And they picked the wrong sport because they focused on table tennis instead of, billiards. I think I hit a nerve. The noise.
You're killing me.
The
You're literally
noise.
killing me. Yeah, this is just what I need. This is just what I need at the end of this week.
Okay, it was billiards. It was billiards. Still, Paul Newman did not deserve the Academy Award for that. And it was.
I'm not going to argue that.
Right. I know, and that's really what I'm talking about.
That's the point he's making.
My focus is that, and to me, it was almost insulting the way that the Academy went, oh crap, we should have given him something. We really blew it when we didn't give him the Academy Award, although we kind of didn't, because it was Gandhi. So, Gandhi.
What were the other movies for Best Actor during that? Who were the other Best Actors during that?
Ben Kingsley, of course.
No, not during the verdict, but during The Color of Money.
The following year?
Yeah.
It wasn't the following year, it was 1980. I think it was the 1987 Academy Awards. I think the movie actually came out in 1986. Let's see. Oh God, I hate it.
Sorry, I paused the show. I apologize.
Oh no, I had it. Okay, here we go. I had it here, and I just went to the wrong spot. Okay. 1980, 1987. Academy Awards. Let's see. Okay, well, Platoon won Best Picture that year.
Good movie.
Marlee Matlin won for Best Actress for Children of a Lesser God, and I think William Hurt was nominated, but obviously didn't win. Let me see. The other nominees for Best Actor that year were Dexter.
No. That was 87. 86 is when Paul Newman won for The Color of Money.
No, he won in 1987. He got the Academy Award in 1987. The movie came out in 86. I'm looking at it. 59th Academy Awards, 1987.
Oh, it's got him listed at 86. Michael Douglas in 87 won Best Actor for Wall Street.
But the movie Wall Street came out in 1987. I'm just talking like the 1987 Academy Awards were held in March 1987.
I got you.
Right.
So,
honoring movies released in 1986.
Right.
James Woods, William Hurt, Bob Hoskins, Dexter Gordon, and Paul Newman.
Right. So
that's an all-star.
And I think two people who could have won, but for the fact that the Academy was bound and determined to give Paul Newman something. Dexter Gordon, I remember the Academy Awards that year, and just some lamenting that Dexter Gordon did not win for Around Midnight. And Bob Hoskins was brilliant in Mona Lisa. That was an excellent film.
It was a good movie.
He was awesome in that. Yeah. And frankly, William Hurt was pretty damn good in Children of a Lesser God. What can I say? And then in terms of Best Pictures that year, the Platoon won for Best Picture, and the other nominees were Children of a Lesser God, Hannah and Her Sisters, The Mission, and A Room with a View. So I think A Room with a View was given short shrift because that movie's amazing.
I can't disagree with that.
Anyway, I think Paul Newman, unfortunately, it was a juggernaut of timing. I would like to think if the movie hadn't gone up against Gandhi, then he would have been a slam dunk for Best Actor. I don't know. But he should have won for that movie. What him winning for The Color of Money in no way makes up for the fact that he didn't win for The Verdict, which was a much better exemplification of his brilliance as an actor.
It reminds me of the time when Denzel Washington was in Malcolm X, where he should have won the Oscar.
Whoa, back it up, because that's on my list of films. That's my third film, so you can't talk about that.
Sure, you can.
No, you can't.
Well, I can talk about it. I can talk about it when you're ready to talk about it.
Okay.
Okay. So never. Thanks.
Like when the show's over.
What else?
Oh, okay. Well, let me continue my assault on the Oscars.
Well, Steve needs to bring up his movie.
Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. There I go. I did not mean to do that. What else you got for us, brother?
It's okay. I want to kind of beat around this just a little bit. In 1991, the Oscars were dead on, giving Best Picture to Silence of the Lambs. It was the best movie that year, followed closely by JFK, which I feel like is just as on par a movie, but I feel like the acting for Silence of the Lambs, the storytelling for Silence of the Lambs was much better. In 1993, Schindler's List won for Best Picture, followed closely by The Piano and The Fugitive, with respect, but Schindler's List, above and beyond, the best movie of that year. Say what?
No, I didn't get what you were saying. So are you saying Schindler's List shouldn't have won, or it should have?
No, should have won. I just want to get to the center of this. Like they had Silence of the Lambs, far and away probably the best movie of 1991. Okay. Schindler's List, far and away the best movie of 1993. In 1992, you had than the movie that won. The movie that won in 1992 was Unforgiven by Clint Eastwood, which is it's such a good movie, but it's a Western story that's been told before,
right?
And a guy who's past his prime, in a sense, has given up on his wicked ways, has turned into in Wyoming. He's given up on his life of crime and everything and has turned into a farmer, and he's just trying to support his family. He's a widower, but things aren't exactly going the way he wants them to, and somebody presents him with an opportunity to have one last run, to kind of get back to what he was, plus the money that
that he needs for the
and everything like that. So he comes out of retirement for that. Unforgiven is a good movie, but when you stack it up to A Few Good Men, when you stack it up to A Few Good Men, a great military movie, a great court lawyer movie, in my opinion. I didn't want to step on Karen.
Say that again, Steve.
I said I didn't want to step on Karen's toes or anything, cross the line.
Mm-hmm. I'm watching.
I'm not saying it was a great lawyer. It was a great lawyer movie and courtroom movie, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Casting wise, Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson, Demi Moore, Kevin Pollak, Kevin Bacon. Phenomenal job playing opposite of Tom Cruise in the courtroom scenes and outside of the courtroom scenes. Kiefer Sullivan making an appearance in the movie and doing a phenomenal job. The story is very detective-ish, while still maintaining its courtroom and lawyer atmosphere. The intensity in the scene between Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise toward the end of the movie is far and away one of the best scenes that has ever been put into a movie as a whole.
Yeah,
Jack Nicholson's portrayal of this general willing to do anything and everything, literally within his power to keep his country safe in the way that he believes the country should be safe. And if you should question or
usurp his authority.
has an answer and he has a reason, and he will make you believe his reason even if he has to force you to believe it.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's a good job. That was far and away a better movie than Unforgiven. The other movie that was up for it that year, so
No, go ahead.
the other movie that was up for Best Picture that year was Sin of a Woman.
That's a good movie.
Um,
I don't think it was Oscar worthy to
Well,
me.
great movie.
Really good movie.
the story's really good. Al Pacino, I believe, who won Best Actor that year,
He did.
He did.
does a phenomenal job in the movie. Hoo-ah. It's a really good story. It's not really a difficult movie to explain, but it's a movie that even if I explain it, you need to see it to really grasp understanding of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And but I just really believe that those two are not head and shoulders above Unforgiven, but definitely are worthy of the award more than Unforgiven was.
I agree. Sin of a Woman, not as much to me as A Few Good Men. Although Sin of a Woman was a good movie, I remember thinking if I wanted to even see it or not, and then when I actually saw it, I thought, wow, this is really good. But I agree with you in the sense of A Few Good Men. I just think that's a stellar film. I've seen that multiple times, and it's never I never tire of watching that film. And Unforgiven was a decent film, I guess. To me, I didn't think it should have won the Oscar either, so I agree with you totally there, Steve. And I would have, me personally, I think I would have picked A Few Good Men.
Karen?
Well, the movie that I would have picked isn't on this list, so
Well, which one?
What movie?
Then?
Oh,
the last movie that I want to talk about.
ooh. Well, Greg, you're next, and then we'll get to Karen's.
All righty. Back to my assault on the Oscars.
What they do to Bobby De Niro, Greg? What they do to him?
Well, they look. You know, I can understand. You know, a tough guy movie beating out a tough guy movie. I can understand a romantic thriller beating out a tough guy movie.
This sounds like a Gregor rant.
I like it.
You know what? I'm having a Gregor rant about Robert De Niro versus the Oscars. Okay. Let me get my composure here.
Uh-oh. Now I'm scared.
Look,
I'm scared too.
don't be scared, kids. But you know, the 70s was wonderful when it came to film and music.
Was it?
Hear me out for just a second. The 80s.
I mean, I didn't know.
What?
I didn't know the 70s were good.
I thought the 70s.
I mean, I
really
learned
good.
something new every day.
The 70s was wonderful for movies and music. It just was. And the 80s, it was okay.
Kind of
But
before my time.
But 1980 wasn't a bad year, except for the Oscars. The film that won the Best Picture was one of the most depressing films one could ever see, and as far as family relationships go. We're talking about the film that won Best Picture in 1980, was Ordinary People. And it did have a stellar cast. And ironically, Steve, the person who was one of the main characters in this film was the father of Kiefer Sutherland from your film, Donald Sutherland. And he was married to Mary Tyler Moore. Now, I thought Mary Tyler Moore did a superb job, because I used to love her in the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And then after I saw this movie, I was thinking, that is just two different people. Right. Not remembering that she was just acting. But Mary Richards was so nice. She was so cool. You threw her hat in the air and everything.
And Laura Petrie was so nice in the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Even when she danced around the couch and all that wonderful things. You put those two together, they could not fight this woman and win. Okay? So I get the fact that, yeah, Ordinary People was a decent film. It was a good film. But it beat out Raging Bull? Come on, the Jake LaMotta story? Are you kidding me?
It's a Gregorand, ladies and gentlemen.
Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. Robert De Niro, not only did he act well, he got beat up a lot. In this movie, literally, for real. A lot of the bruising you saw wasn't like, hey, that's great makeup. We got a great makeup artist here. No, the makeup artist didn't win the Academy Award. Robert De Niro was getting pelted. And he was just wearing it because he was into the character. So as he was into the character, some of the best fight scenes in movies, we were talking about that with Rocky. Well, this was another movie that I thought was even better fight scenes because there was a lot more close in fighting in this film. Robert De Niro, again, stellar job. But I guess they felt the lady in the other movie was meaner than Jake LaMotta. I mean, obviously she had a better uppercut and a better right cross and a left hook.
Ooh, wow.
How that was possible, I don't know. But in this film, somehow, Mary Tyler Moore, little itty bitty Mary Tyler Moore, who was kicking the crap out of Donald Sutherland because he was such a nice guy.
Mm-hmm. She was kicking the crap out of him.
Preach.
Totally kicking the crap out of him. And not paying no attention to the younger son.
Nope.
In this film. Well, the essence of the film is about one of their children committed suicide. Okay. So, not suicide, but accidentally killed. So, she just took everything out on everyone. You know, and obviously she reached across the aisle during the Oscars and pulled Jake LaMotta, i.e. Robert De Niro, across, hit him with a few uppercuts, threw him back, and won the film. At least 20 times.
Can I interrupt the Gregor rant for a second to just ask who else was up for Best Actor that year? Because I don't think it was Mary Tyler Moore.
I don't know about Best Actor. We could check that out though real quick.
Oh, of course we can.
The
power of
I'm just curious as to what, because it sounds like from what you're saying that Mary Tyler Moore and Robert De Niro were in competition for Best Actor, and I don't think that's what happened.
I don't know. She was so tough in that film. I think it was Best Actor and Best Actress she was up for that one.
Aha.
But that'd be like 1981, right?
Probably.
Oscars.
I think Greg is just so mad.
Oh, Sissy Spacek got it for The Coal Miner's Daughter.
Ah. Who was up for Best Actor that year?
Say again?
Who was up for Best Actor that year that Robert De Niro did not win for Raging Bull? Who else was up for Best Actor?
Let's see here. Who was up for Best Actor?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually, he was. Let's see who won. Oh my God.
I'm curious as to who the other nominees were.
Let's see. Got to put in nominees because actually Robert De Niro won for Best Actor. But
Then what are you even arguing?
Yeah.
I'm arguing the movie, guys.
Oh, the actual. Oh,
I
okay.
thought you were
I
saying that
said Raging Bull.
Oh, okay.
But you said you were
I know,
having
but you put such a case for
about
Robert
Robert De
against
Niro,
Mary
and you're
Tyler
talking
Moore.
about what the Academy did to Robert De Niro, and he won that year. I thought that was it. That's the only Academy Award he's won has been for Raging Bull.
But hear me out. Even in the other movies that
I'm
talked
sorry,
about,
your rant was so good, I forgot what we were talking about.
Me too.
the other movies that I mentioned prior, I never was talking about the actor for actor. Like, for example, in Dancing with Wolves and Goodfellas, I wasn't saying that it was De Niro against Costner. I was only been talking about the films.
Oh.
And I was saying that Ordinary People should not have beaten out Raging Bull, and even more so because Robert De Niro got the Best Actor.
Oh, yeah, I missed that. I missed that.
Still, Raging Bull didn't win.
I missed that in the Gregor rant.
Well, I wasn't through. I wasn't through Gregor ranting. I wasn't through Gregor ranting, but that's okay. We can kill my Gregor rant because that's probably a whole nother show.
What were the other pictures that were up for that were nominated for Best Picture besides Ordinary People and Raging Bull?
Oh, okay. Give me one moment. The Elephant Man, which was actually an excellent movie.
Oh my goodness.
The Coal Miner's Daughter, which also was an excellent movie.
Mm-hmm.
And although I didn't think this was necessarily on the realms of excellent movie, I still thought it was a very good movie. But it was, kind of a lesser known film, and that was Tess. But in Raging Bull, Elephant Man was really, really good.
Yeah, I'm surprised the Elephant Man didn't win. Maybe you could really argue that at least the Elephant Man should have won over Ordinary People. Although Ordinary People was one of my all-time favorite films. I love that movie.
It is a good movie. Don't get me wrong. I like the movie as well. I just didn't think it should be out Raging Bull. And with Robert De Niro actually getting the Academy Award for Best Actor, and this movie was such a good movie, and one of those rare movies that you could have shot in color, then it was shot in black and white.
That was awesome.
To the essence of the film. I just thought it was so much better than Ordinary People. And I'm really going against Ordinary People because they're the ones that won. So I end my Gregor rant here saying that, Ordinary People shouldn't have won.
So really you could make an even stronger argument about The Elephant Man because John Hurt didn't win the Academy Award for Best Actor when you really could have argued that he could have won that category easily, and The Elephant Man could have won for Best Picture, and that didn't win either.
That's true.
She's poking the bear.
No, she's not, because what I did was I had all my films because I found a theme with Robert De Niro and I thought it was interesting, so I was just using that as my base. Not saying that the other movies weren't any good by any means. I love Elephant Man. I thought it was an excellent film. But it was just ironic to me that movies that Robert De Niro was in that were such stellar films didn't get the nods. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
True.
interesting. But finally got his due because he did such a good job in that movie. Him getting the Academy Award, I'm good with that.
Well, let me weigh in with my last film. I mean, there are many others that I could have found out. These three just rose to the level. But let me take you to 1993. We've already been dancing around this. We've had this Date with Destiny for a long time. And the 1993 Academy Awards in my opinion, the person who should have won Best Actor. He was nominated for Best Actor. He should have won for Best Actor. Is Denzel Washington for Malcolm X. Al Pacino won for Son of a Woman. The other nominees were Robert Downey Jr. for Chaplin, Clint Eastwood for Unforgiven, Stephen Ray for The Crying Game. I would say out of all of those nominees, I'm very glad that Clint Eastwood did not win for Unforgiven, because I agree with you, Steve. It was a good movie, but it's a tale. We've been down that road so many times, and it wasn't like a lot of new territory was plowed with that movie. It was well worn and plowed well again. But I don't think we need to be throwing Academy Awards over all of that. I think one could make a plausible argument that maybe Stephen Ray should have won for The Crying Game, because he just played such an unusual character. Al Pacino, I mean, yeah, I saw Son of a Woman. That was a good movie, and he was really good. But I still don't think it rises to the level of even Robert Downey Jr. and Chaplin. Robert Downey Jr. was amazing in that movie. And, the work that he did to humanize Charlie Chaplin, who was really just kind of just this movie icon, and an icon that was scandalized, covered in scandal, because of his predilection for dating girls or assaulting girls or molesting girls or whatever it was. But his drive to make movies when there was no such thing as a movie industry, and the work that he put into his creation, I think Robert Downey Jr. did a good job of bringing that to the fore. Mm-hmm. So you could have made a plausible argument for Robert Downey Jr. winning. But of all of these nominees, I think the person who really should have won is Denzel Washington and Malcolm X. This was, again, an epic story told about an amazing person who, again, was only known before this movie. I think this movie did a great deal to humanize Malcolm X. It was based on the book, The Autobiography of Malcolm X, which mm-hmm. I remember reading in college. And before reading that book, I know I had, I didn't have strong opinions about Malcolm X, but the opinions I had were just kind of bordered on slightly negative, like troublemaker, violent, angry. And then I read The Autobiography of Malcolm X, and written by Alex Haley Jr., I might add. And I was just shocked at the brilliance of this man and the complexity of this man, and at the same time, the way in which he was just caught up in incredibly turbulent times, and the amount of courage that it took to say, I know that all of you are saying go east or go west. I'm not going to do that. This is where I'm a man, and I'm not going to let you walk all over me. And even if you disagree with the way in which he exemplified that, the fact that he did it, to me, was amazing. And the book and this movie showed this person as a multi-layered human being, a family man, a religious man, a man who was upset at the slow pace of civil rights, and at the fact that so many people, African-American people, were saying, well, we can't go too quickly because we don't want to get the power structure too mad at us. And he's like, screw that. We deserve to be treated like human beings, and, rejecting the main religion of the time and becoming a Muslim, dealing with the power structure in the Muslim community, and putting himself at risk to do just that, and embracing towards the end of his life, embracing brotherhood. Mm-hmm. It's just an incredible story, an incredible journey of becoming and growth and courage and just, you know, an amazing story. And this town, and there's a story of a flawed man. I mean, he was very much a flawed man. And you see that in the movie. Spike Lee, I think, did an amazing job of creating this movie from this book, putting flesh and bones on these iconic people. And I just thought it was amazing. I thought it was well written. I thought it was well produced. It's Spike Lee's best movie, as far as I'm concerned. And Denzel Washington, he literally lived that role. I mean, I remember reading about him on the movie set where, you know, he didn't talk to anyone. I mean, when the cameras were off, he didn't stop being Malcolm X. He was in character, much like the way Daniel Day-Lewis is famous for doing that. When he was in Lincoln, he was Lincoln all day, all night. Denzel Washington did the same thing for Malcolm X. He was Malcolm X all day, all night. And he brought across the burden that this man carried, wanting to be loyal to Muhammad, but at the same time wanting to be his own person. And so he carried himself like that off the set, you know, on the movie set. When the camera stopped rolling, he still did that. And he just really exemplified, and he looked so much like Malcolm X too. And it wasn't just the makeup. It was, again, his carriage, the way in which he comported himself, the mannerisms. I just thought it was a real tour de force, and that's what he should have won the Academy Award for, not Training Day.
The following year, right?
No, it wasn't the following year. It was.
Oh, it was. My bad.
It was, no, he won for Training Day in 2001.
Yeah.
Not that he did a bad job in Training Day, but that movie nowhere near rises to the level. And I love Training Day. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. I've watched it numerous times. I'll watch it again. But it still in no way, shape, or form compares to the brilliance of Malcolm X and Denzel Washington's performance in Training Day, which he probably could have done in his sleep, and nowhere compares to what he had to do, the work that he had to do in Malcolm X. So that's what he should have won for, not Training Day.
So who
that's
actually
in
won
my
the
K
Oscar?
rant. Huh?
Who actually won the Oscar?
Al Pacino for Son of a
Oh, for
Woman.
Son of a Woman, right? Okay.
So,
Wow.
so that's my K rant.
All righty. We kind of missed those, Karen. You haven't had one in a while.
It has been a little while.
So, all righty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, obviously, there are a lot of films out there that are worth their weight in gold as far as the Academy Award gold is concerned. But there are other movies out there that didn't necessarily get the nod that many of us, including the three of us, felt should have got that nod. And so you'll be able to find many movies out there that have won Academy Awards that could have easily been contested by other films and that were nominated, and even some cases that weren't nominated. So what we would urge you to do, of course, is listen to the films that we mentioned and or actors and actresses that we mentioned and investigate yourself and see what you think. Do you think or agree with us? Do you think that, you know, Dances with Wolves should have beat Goodfellas? Do you think Rocky should have beat Taxi Driver? Do you think Ordinary People should have beat Raging Bull in my case? In Karen's case, makes a very good case, especially for Denzel Washington, as opposed to Al Pacino. In that year, Oscar race for Best Actor. So, and in Steve's situation, I mean, all these different films, all these different people out there giving wonderful performances, and yet the Academy has made a decision for some of these films, for whatever their reasons were, And yet, those of us who are watching the films, who are never asked the question, did we think these were worthy of being Oscar films? We may have a different opinion. As you heard here tonight, we have different opinions as who we felt should really have deserved the Oscar. What do you think? Leave us a comment. Let us know some of your ideas and films that you are aware of that you thought should have won the Oscar instead of another film. You guys have any other films out there, just kind of as honorable mentions, situations out there that people might want to take a look at? I have a couple.
I have a couple.
I have a couple.
Why don't we start with you, Steve, then Karen, and then I'll end it.
I'm actually going to do Best Original Song, which won in 1984. It's a great song in my opinion. I love the singer. Stevie Wonder won for "I Just Called to Say I Love You" in the Woman in Red, but it was up against Against All Odds for the movie Against All Odds with Phil Collins, Footloose.
Love Footloose.
Who doesn't love Footloose?
Love
Kenny
Footloose.
Loggins, and it was also competing with Ghostbusters,
Ray Parker
Ray
Jr.
Parker Jr.
which in my opinion, that's like right there, and and also another song from Footloose called "Let's Hear It for the Boy."
Oh.
Yeah.
Let's hear it for the boy.
Like it was
Yeah, that's a
a
very
stacked best original song, but I feel like they gave it to Stevie Wonder. I don't feel like anybody would really be mad giving it to Stevie Wonder, but I feel like they were better. The category had better picks than that song. The other one,
I would agree.
Yeah.
the other one in 2004, I'm gonna pick on Clint Eastwood again. $1 Million Baby won Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal movie, phenomenal acting. I feel like The Aviator was a better all-around movie.
Wow.
I feel like Leonardo DiCaprio gave an amazing performance as Howard Hughes, and show from the kind of a little bit when he was a kid, but mostly going into his film producing stage of his life, all the way to the Flight of the Spruce Goose, Hercules, and I feel like his portrayal, his depth of going into Howard Hughes's OCD problem that later consumed his life, especially after the plane crash in Beverly Hills, which claimed the lives of a family, that haunted him for years. After that, I just feel like Leo really stepped you into the work. It stepped you into the life and the mind of Howard Hughes during this movie.
Very cool.
So,
How about you, Karen?
I would say The Color Purple. Whoopi Goldberg should have won for Best Actress, and she didn't.
that's such a good movie.
It is.
And in fact, in a yet another misguided backhanded effort to make up for that complete just snub, they gave her an Academy Award a few years later for oh my goodness, I just lost the name of the movie. Demi Moore, Patrick Swayze, Ghost. How could I forget that?
That was a good movie too.
The movie was good. She won for Best Supporting Actress for a really kind of okay character, but I'm sorry. And again, that in no way approaches the work that she did. It's not that she did a bad job and Ghost, she didn't. She worked with what they gave her to work with, and she did a good job. But it doesn't even begin to approach the work that she did in The Color Purple, which is another epic movie that told a story that hadn't been told before. This movie was probably goes down the record books as being nominated for more Academy Awards and not winning any.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was nominated for like 11 Academy Awards. It didn't win one.
Mm-hmm.
And it should have won something. And that was when Oprah Winfrey was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and I would say she should have won for Best Supporting Actress. And Whoopi Goldberg should have won for Best Actress, and The Color Purple should have won for Best Picture. Steven Spielberg should have won for Best Director. So there, you got a forfer.
A forfer? Gee, Manetly.
G. Willikers.
Gee, just get it all out there. Okay. Well,
G.
Well, it's funny you say that. You should say that. Okay. I'm gonna just put some titles out there, and ladies and gentlemen, you can think what you think, and you guys think what you think. The English Patient and Fargo. I think Fargo was a better movie.
Then The English Patient? Oh, come on, it wasn't nearly as long.
In fact, I think
That was such a good joke.
it is. It is. It was very good. I was thinking that too, but it's a very good joke. I was gonna say, yeah, we could have put 2 Fargos, North Dakota and South Dakota, both in there.
Oh
And
my God, that was
still had
such a
room.
good joke. That was so good, Karen. Major applause for that one. That was so
Okay.
good.
Got an old movie, Top Hat, and Mutiny on the Bounty. Come on. I love
Wait a
Fred
minute,
Astaire.
did Top Hat win?
This is back in the 30s.
Right, Top Hat won instead of Mutiny on the Bounty? Is that
Instead
what
of
you
Mutiny
said?
on the Bounty.
Really? Because
What?
yeah, there's no way. Mutiny on the Bounty for sure. In your sleep.
Crazy. I
That
was
was
like,
crazy.
what? Everybody must have had a whole bunch of champagne and were dancing with the Fred Astaire and Ginger Washington. I'm like, I love them. It's still,
Wait, was that the one with Clark Gable and
Yes. And
Clark Gable played
Spencer Christian.
yes.
Yes. And I'm trying to think of the,
Who played
good.
Captain
Really-
Bligh? It wasn't
really
Charles
good actor.
Lawton.
it was a really good actor. I can see him too.
Oh, well, I have to find. I have
Well,
to
while
find.
you look it up for us to help us out here, Karen, I've got another one. The Searchers and Around the World in 80 Days.
Wow. Searchers all the way.
All the way. All the way.
That's not even a question. Oh my God. There's no telling
is-
how many times as a little kid I am sitting there watching that movie with my mom because she just it's one of that.
It's one of the better John Wayne movies. And also Natalie Wood is in this film.
Yeah.
And what is his name? Jeffrey Hunter is in this film.
Oh, I love Jeffrey Hunter.
I do too. And this was such a good movie. And Around the World in 80 Days one?
Charles Lawton did play Captain Bligh.
Yes,
In-
Charles Lawton. Thank you. I couldn't remember his name.
It was Trevor Howard played Captain Bligh in the remake with Marlon Brando in
Marlon
1960.
Brando, which was actually a pretty good movie.
That's actually my favorite of the two. I prefer Marlon Brando as Spencer
Yeah.
Christian.
He was actually a kinder, ironically, Spencer Christian than the other one.
Right.
But yeah, just that was crazy. And then the last one I'm going to mention is what should have won was Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, but what actually did win was Gigi.
Wow.
Mm.
What? Oh, little girl. What?
It's another Gregorant.
Okay, I'm just gonna calm down.
Bring it in. Bring it in, Greg.
Bring it down. Let's,
Calm it down. But
Woosah. Woosah. Dang Academy. Woosah.
what the hell they
That's so funny. Om. Woosah. Oh, what a loon I am. Oh, what a loon I am. All right, Greg, bring it back.
Yeah, you put me to sleep.
Oh, okay.
I'm starting to snooze a little bit. I was fading. Are you sleeping over there? It's called meditation. I know the difference between sleeping and meditation.
Oh, sure you do.
It was snoring. That is just another one of my many records that I'm putting out there for everyone to. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for humoring us and letting us invade your home with our crazy Gregor rants, Aaron rants, and Steve Apocalypse.
Which, for some reason, Karen seems to always cause. Good job, Karen.
I don't know what he's talking about.
I don't either. Oops. So again, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you hanging out with us, and we hope some of the movies that we mentioned and some of our ranting and raving has infected your psyche and get you to get out there and again investigate some more films. So thanks again for hanging out with us here at A Real Point of View, and I'm just going to say signing off for me. How about you guys?
See you at the
Go out
movies.
there and watch the movies. There's a lot of good stuff coming out.
Oh my goodness, there is
Oh,
so
yeah.
much good stuff coming out.
Mm-hmm. Check it out. Go to the movies. Support.
Dunkirk for me right now.
Oh, Dunkirk, definitely.
I am really
Definitely
excited
like
about the upcoming biopic on Thurgood Marshall, starring Chadwick Boseman.
I am
Yeah.
also excited about the biopic of Winston Churchill with Gary Oldman.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it. When is that out? I thought it
We
came
all
out.
need more Gary Oldman, and this is gonna be good.
I don't know exactly the actual release date, but it's soon.
Yeah.
Oh, for any horror fans out there in the audience that are listening, Jigsaw, October 27th,
Ooh.
the 8th installment of the Saw franchise.
Uh-oh.
You kidding me? Horror movies with plot? I'm down. Like actual good plot? Oh my God, that's got me written all over it.
Well, again, we're just killing ourselves here. Have a good night, everybody. We appreciate you coming by.
Bye.
And
See ya.
we'll be back again next week with something hopefully just as cool, if not cooler. Have a good night, everybody.
2007.
2007.
7.
Have a good night, everybody.
Night.
Bye.
Bye.